Are we ready to roll?
Yes, sir. I believe we are.
Thank you. Before I call the meeting to order, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some commissioners, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom or by phone. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones when not speaking to avoid background noise. And during the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak, so the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and his current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. And due to COVID-19 requirements, the public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting. Those comments will be included in the record of the meeting. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Roll call. Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Walters.
Here.
Philbrook.
Here.
Bynum.
Here.
Burrows. Burrows. Townsend. McKiernan.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Alvey.
Here. Thank you. Our invocation tonight is being given by Commissioner Harold Johnson of Faith Deliverance Church of God in Christ.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we thank you for this time that you've brought us together as the Commission of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. God, we pray, Lord, for our nation as we transition into a new administration. We pray, Lord, that we here locally, that you would order our steps as we continue to lead this community with integrity, with courage, and with, Lord, appreciation for every person in our community. We ask, God, that you would be with us, help us to make the right decisions. According to your will, we pray. In the name of Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
And
to the republic
for which
which
it
it
stands,
stands,
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice.
for all.
Thank you again, Commissioner Johnson, for leading us in prayer. Clerk, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Mary, there or not?
Thank you. So we have two distinct parts to our meeting: planning and zoning portion, followed by regular commission. I'd ask the clerk to read the statement required by state law governing the planning and zoning portion of our meeting, followed by the items on the planning and zoning consent agenda.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor David Alvey, Commissioner Melissa Bynum, at-large District Number 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows, at-large District Number 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Christian Ramirez, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has three options. Option number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Option number 2, it can override the Planning Commission's recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. Option number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with a statement specifying the reasons for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission's recommendation on all of the items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, And when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask if there are any requests to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to raise your hand and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If you contact the Unified Government's Clerk's Office, that item will be set aside by the UG Clerk on your behalf. If an item is set aside, the matter will be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside, the matter will be discussed, will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. Most of the petitions before the commission tonight may be determined by a simple majority vote. However, if protesting property owners representing 20% of the land within 200 feet of the area in question have signed and filed a protest petition, at least 9 votes by the commission will be required to approve the change of zone petition number 3243 and master plan amendment MP-2020-8. We appreciate the attendance of those here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone who is joining us by Zoom or by phone to mute your phone when not speaking to avoid background noise so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioners make their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. This is your time to raise your hand. When your name is called, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any item on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact proponents or opponents on any item on the agenda.
This is Commissioner Philbrook. COZ 2210, for against. And the change of zone application, the 3243, and the master plan amendment, MP 2020.8, both of those for and against.
Commissioner Mike Kane's COZ 3243 MP 2028, and then PR 2020-34, and I want to pull that one when we get the opportunity.
Commissioner Markley,
Mayor, all of the same 3 listed by Commissioner Kane.
Commissioner Bynum,
PR 2020-34, opponents and proponents, and on non-consent, item A, the change of zone, and B, the master plan amendment, proponents and opponents.
Commissioner McKiernan,
On non-consent, 8A and 8B, proponents and opponents. That's change of zone 3243 and master plan amendment MP 2020-8.
Commissioner Walters,
Exactly the same as Commissioner McKiernan.
Commissioner Burrows, I think you're muted, Commissioner Burrows. Commissioner Burrows, are you trying to?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm working on it, buddy. Thank you. Sometimes this thing gets blocked out. I apologize, colleagues. Thank you. 3243 and 2020-8 and 2020-34.
Thank you. And I report change of zone number 3243 and master plan amendment 2020-8. Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, let's make it a full house, the same 3243 and MP 2020-8.
I should clarify, I was contacted by opponents of 3243 and master plan 2020-8.
Likewise.
Commissioner Ramirez,
Opponents of MP 2020-8.
okay. All right. That's a royal flush. Here we go. All right, thank you. So Clerk, proceed.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone applications. Number 1, COZ-0002, Lonnie and Leslie Cannon. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to R2 Two Family District for an existing duplex at 3410 Metropolitan. Recommended for approval. Item 2, COZ-0003, Andrea Wajop with Atlas Surveyors. Change of zone from AG Agricultural District to AG Agricultural District to create a code compliant agricultural parcel at 12525 Leavenworth Road, recommended for approval. Item number 3, COZ-0004, Bob Becker with Legends 267 LLC. Change of zone from CP2, Planned General Business District to RP6, Planned High-Rise Apartment District for 267 apartment units at 1879 Village West Parkway, recommended for approval. Item 4, COZ-0005, Jose Lopez Zavala. Change of zone from R1 Single Family District to AG Agricultural District to keep horses, sheep, cows, and chickens at 3834 Bell Crossing Drive, recommended for approval. Item 5, COZ-000010, NP Turner Industrial, Inc. Change of zone from no zoning right-of-way to MP2 Planned General Industrial District for continuation of Turner Logistics Center for warehousing, distribution, and light manufacturing business at 615 North 69th Street, recommended for approval. Special use permit applications. Item number 1, SU 20-00092, Esther Reed. Renewal of a special use permit for the temporary use of land to park a dump truck at 1610 North 51st Street. Recommended for approval for 1 year. Item number 2, SU 20-0095, Beth Leone. Special use permit to keep 3 goats at 7640 Taromie Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item number 3, SU 20-00096, Blair Thettinger. Special use permit to keep 2 goats at 411 and 415 Stein Avenue. Recommended for approval for 2 years. Item number 4, SP-2020-98, Darren Allen with Lounge 42 LLC, renewal of a special use permit for a drinking establishment with live entertainment at 4220 Leavenworth Road. Recommended for approval for 5 years. Master plan amendment applications. Number 1, MPL 2020-014, Bob Becker with Legends 267 LLC. Master plan amendment from Planned Commercial Prairie Delaware Piper Master Plan to High Density Residential at 1879 Village West Parkway. Recommended for approval. Item number 2, MPL 2020-015, NP Turner Industrial LLC, Master Plan Amendment from public/semi-public to Business Park at 615 North 69th Street, recommended for approval. Plan review applications. Item number 1, PR 2020-33, Bob Becker with Legends 267 LLC. Preliminary and final plan review for 267 apartment units at 1879 Village West Parkway, recommended for approval. Item number 2, PR 2020-34, Sean Coffer with Scannell Properties number 459 LLC. Preliminary plan review for a business park and neighborhood retail center at 9700 Leavenworth Road, recommended for approval. Miscellaneous ordinances. Item number 1, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of an auto salvage yard at 1124 Pawnee Avenue, recommended for approval. Item number 2, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for receiving of inventory at the dock, storage within the building, interior and shipping at 1223 Meadowlark Lane, recommended for approval. Item number 3, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit for continuation of tractor trailer parking at the American Motel at 7949 Split Log Avenue, recommended for approval. Item number 4, an ordinance authorizing a special use permit to operate a microbrewery at 13400 Donahue Road, recommended for approval. Item number 5, An ordinance authorizing a special use permit for an event space with live entertainment at 13400 Donahue Road. Recommended for approval. Item number 6, an ordinance for rezoning property at 6600 Thorn Drive from R1 Single Family District to MP3 Planned Heavy Industrial District. Recommended for approval. These are all the consent agenda items.
Thank you. At this time, does any member of the commission, the county administrator, or public wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the planning commission.
Mayor, Commissioner Mike Kane, PR 2020-34, please.
2020-34, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes,
will we have a chance to discuss the 3243 and 2020-8?
only if you take it off the consent agenda.
I would ask that those be pulled, please.
All right, give me those numbers again.
Mayor, I believe those are the non-consent, aren't they?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that
Thank you.
clarification. I'm trying to catch up with my notes.
Are there any other?
McKiernan, move to approve all other items as submitted.
Let me ask, was there any request from the public to set aside an item?
We do have 3 hands up. We will call upon them to ask if they have set aside items.
Thank you. I think, see the first, let me bring this up. Corb Maxwell, please state your name and city of residency.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the commission. Court Maxwell, Polsinelli Law Firm, appearing on behalf of Scannell Properties. We would ask that PR 2020-34 that I believe Commissioner Kane has already called upon before this, we'd ask for that to be remanded to the Planning Commission.
So, Doug, would you explain to me what would be or Gunnar, what would be the action then that we would, does that go back on the consent agenda, or do we have to bring that back to public comment?
We have to pull it off consent and then determine if we remand it. I think the applicant is just asking that they understand that there's some issues that they'd like to work through at Planning Commission.
So we would go through the normal process and ask for public comment, correct? Thank you. I see someone, Grindle.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yes, I'm Mary Jean Grindle, 3419 Gibbs Road. And I am here to say a little bit along with Rusty Quick, a resident who lives right there by the proposed apartment site, and also my husband, Dennis Grindle.
Mary Jane, we just need to know, do you have anything to pull from the consent agenda?
Yes. Number 3243 under the change of zone application and master plan 2020-8.
Thank you. All right, are there any others? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, I'd entertain a motion. Commissioner McKiernan?
Move to approve all other items as submitted.
Johnson, second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
King,
Aye.
Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Bynum.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Ramirez.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Walters.
Aye.
9-0. That motion carries.
I just need to be clear, 3243 is already on the non-consent agenda, so that's going to be discussed. Mary Jane and Rusty is going to be discussed separately anyway, so thank you.
Thank you.
So we are going to 2020-34. I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Real quick, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just making sure we're IT ready. So this is the preliminary development plan for the Woodlands redevelopment project, which was approved last fall. The applicant has submitted an amendment to that application for three primary reasons. One, it is going from a total of 5 buildings to now 6 buildings. They have increased their square footage, and they've also augmented one of their access points. There was a former access, there's currently an approved access on 99th Street, far closer to Leavenworth Road, that currently only accesses the retail node. They are proposing to extend that to connect to the entire distribution center site. There is a little bit of confusion about this one just in how the Planning Commission moved their recommendation. So the Planning Commission's recommendation is for approval, but the motion they made was to approve it with the existing access on 99th Street. So they agreed with the increase in buildings, the increase in square footage, but not the change to the access. So that's the motion before the Board of Commissioners today. I believe the applicant would like to have it remanded back down to Planning Commission to address the access issue only. But just as a sort of quick reminder also, as part of this preliminary development plan amendment, we worked with the applicant to add additional conditions of approval that were on top of the ones that are related to the change of zone, the original change of zone of the property, that address some of the issues we have encountered during the construction process. So I think it's important for those to be noted here today. So with that, we still recommend approval, but we believe that we can address any issues and potentially come up with a design solution for the Planning Commission as we think that addresses community concerns.
Gunnar, if you would, just state specifically what would be voted on. They're asking for the increase in space, but they're asking for the question regarding the change in access, additional access, to be remanded back to the planning and zoning.
That is correct. Motion to just to kind of go over the different decisions the Board of Commissioners could approve the project, approve as recommended by Planning Commission, which would mean the access would stay the same on 99th as was approved last fall, although it would change again some of the square foot in the buildings inside the distribution center. You could deny the recommendation and overturn it, or you could send it back to Planning Commission and request a change in 99th related to the access.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'd ask the applicant to present his application. Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Cord Maxwell, Polsinelli Law Firm, 900 West 48th Street, Kansas City, Missouri, appearing today on behalf of Scannell Properties. I would agree with everything that Gunnar said and that the planning director said. We are asking for this to be remanded down to the Planning Commission. This was taken up very late at night on the Planning Commission after a very long agenda, and I think there was a little confusion at the end. We would like to work with staff and the Planning Commission regarding the issues of access. We do not think on that access issue this is right for a decision by the Board of Commissioners at this time, and we would very much like to work with the planning staff and the Planning Commissioners on a design solution for access issues on 99th. We think we can address a lot of the concerns that were heard at the Planning Commission, and we can make sure this is the best application for this woodland site, and we can make sure that we create a great employment center here, but that is also very, very respectful of the neighbors' concerns that have been brought up in this process. And so we would ask for the members of the commission to remand this back down to the Planning Commission so we can work harder on it and bring up an application that we will believe will be ready for approval by this Board of Commissioners. I'd stand for any questions, Mayor and members of the commission, and appreciate your time and attention to this and ask for the read.
Can I
Yes.
speak on this? Can somebody show 99th Street, please? Where the houses and units at?
Commissioner Kane,
Yes.
let me just follow the process. We'll ask for public comment and then there'll be
Okay.
plenty of
Okay, I'm sorry.
opportunity for commission. So I will now open the public hearing. Has the clerk received any notification from the public who wish to express their comments in favor of this item?
Mayor, the clerk has not received any.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public present tonight who would like to speak in favor of this? If so, please raise your hand to be acknowledged.
There are no hands raised, Mayor.
Thank you. I'd ask the clerk, have you received any notification from the public who wish to express their comments in opposition?
Mayor, the clerk's office has not received any opposition.
Thank you. And is there anyone present from the public who would like to speak in opposition?
I don't see any hands raised, Mayor. Oh,
Thank you.
I take that back. We have a Karen Lauber.
Okay, please state your name and city of residency.
Is she unmuted? Ask her mute.
Yep. Hi, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes.
Yep. So thank you for letting me speak. I am interested to see what Polsinelli and Scannell come back with for a revision. But as this was presented at the last meeting, this is a pretty big change compared to what was approved in the fall, which the original plan only had a 99th Street access to the retail node only, as Gunnar brought up. What was presented was a through access through the entire project, which the 2-lane road at 99th Street, and I am at 3120 North 99th. I am the second house from the corner. All of the neighbors were very concerned about people coming up and down 99th Street and the amount of congestion and traffic and the road just not being able to take that. And, I think we were resolved that having that just come into the retail piece would be one thing, but having 24/7 employees coming in and out of this development through the entire project on 99th Street was not something that the neighborhood bought into, nor was what was approved in the original plan.
Thank you, Mrs. Lauber.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
I see no other hands raised.
Thank you. All right. Would the petitioner have any closing comments before I bring it to the commission?
Just, Mr. Mayor, that we do not think this is ripe at this time and would like to go back down to the Planning Commission to work it further with your planning staff.
Thank you. All right. Members of the commission, questions or comments?
I
Commissioner?
have a comment, Mayor. Commissioner Mike Kane, on the very first page of today, it shows the neighborhood across the street. Can we pull that up, please? All right, and can you show on your screen where there you go. All right, and then go right back a little bit right there. You got the entrance, come up to where their entrance is at. You got your entrance and exit right there. Then I want you to go a little bit north. Right there, stop. There are 4 buses that go down there every day, 3 times a day, AM, noon, PM, and pick up a total of 50 students just in that little bitty section right there. Now, you all know I worked in safety for 21 years, and they're picking up little kids. And what we told the neighbors was that would not be an access. They would not be allowed to go down there. And then the next thing you know, and 100 people didn't want it, 20 people wanted it. And they said, this is the way it's going to be. Don't worry about it. So they get their first project. Life's good. They come back and say, you know what? We don't like that. We're going to change it the way we want it. I don't care if he takes it back or not. This is a serious safety going for our kids. The road is not designed to have, how many people, Corb, how many people are going to be employed there total?
Sorry, Commissioner, I couldn't unmute myself fast enough. There will be hundreds of people that will be employed in this with, 3 million square feet, hundreds to thousands of people that will be employed in this. So it will be a major employment center for the county.
Right, and he just said thousands of people. General Motors is designed, there's no kids down there when they get out of school. Fiberglass, none of the places down in Fairfax. That's why I didn't want the industrial park there in the first place. And the concern is, all right, they're going to come back again. And then they're going to build another building. They're going to come back again. We need to set the guidelines for these folks to say, here's what's approved. You need to live by it. And I don't know, it would be, in my mind, extremely hard to make 99th Street safe for that many buses, that many kids, and that much traffic running down there. And he just said it, thousands of employees. So these are things to consider, not just today, but when this comes back. Because it looks like, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the neighbors told me, like a bait and switch. And I want everyone to think about this as he takes it back. And then I want you, when it comes back to us, I want you to think about it again.
Commissioner, Commissioner, I fully appreciate those comments. We understand that we have a burden to carry with you and the rest of the commission. We would just like at this time not to get into all of those points. I don't think we're prepared for them, but I do think we can be prepared for them to present to this commission, to present to your planning staff, you, the mayor, and all what our design solutions are, how it can work, how we can make it safe. We understand that's a burden we have to carry as the applicant. We'd just like to go back down and be able to work on it with the planners and the planning commission a little bit more to try to prove that burden. I understand that it's a high burden for you and those neighbors, but we ask for the chance to be able to do it.
And so the commission knows it's a little more than 60 yards from that opening. That's pretty damn close. That's my comment, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe my comment is moot at this point. It was more a question on process. I am still learning the process, but for future planning and zoning meetings that we have, this might be a question either for you, Mr. Mayor, or for our council. If an applicant is wanting to remand their application back to planning and zoning, are we still required to go through the public hearing process?
Gunner?
Commissioner Ramirez is Gunner, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Do you mean like tonight?
You could say for tonight, or let's say in the future, another applicant that wants their application remanded back, and we know they want it remanded back to get it fixed. Does it still need to go through the public hearing process because they're going to come back again within a revised application? I'm just clarification.
So as I think I understand your question, as a way of using this project as an example, if the commission decides to remand it back to the planning commission, we have to renotice it so that everybody within 200 feet knows that it's going to be heard again at the planning commission. As was noted by the city clerk at the onset of the meeting, anything that's remanded must be remanded back for a reason so that we focus on that reason alone. So back at planning commission, if you say you want to remand this to discuss the access issue, all the other points that we've already had a public meeting on will not be heard again. So we're not going to talk about the 6 buildings versus 5 or the increase in square footage. There was a comment at the last planning commission about the trail to the north. All that stuff's already been discussed. We'll only just talk about this issue at planning commission, and then if and when the planning commission hears it and decides to send it back to the Board of Commissioners with whatever recommendation at that time, then you'll have another full hearing.
Okay, that was, thank you for the explanation because I was getting a little confused on process. So thank you very much.
Commissioner McKiernan?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo Commissioner Kane's concern. And Mr. Maxwell, I understand you really do want to take this back. And I appreciate the fact that you want to take this back to Planning Commission and work through these issues. But I just want to echo what Commissioner Kane just said, because what I heard way back when we approved this was that the biggest concerns I heard were the spillover, potentially negative effects outside of the boundary of this development on those neighbors who live around it. And I thought we were pretty clear that we were going to do our best to minimize those spillover negative effects. There'd be a berm on the west side, there'd be limited access. We'd leave the access up at K5, which is Leavenworth Road, which is already a state highway and heavily traveled. And so I am concerned that after hearing all of that, we're back here saying, you know what, let's change the access. So I appreciate the fact that you're going to take this back to Planning Commission, and I certainly hope to have a modified request that respects the fact that we pretty much promised we'd minimize the spillover effects to the best of our ability. So thank you.
Commissioner Bynum?
Thank you. I would concur with Commissioner Kane and McKiernan. That's a serious concern. I'm willing to make a motion to send the item back to Planning and Zoning for the purpose of discussing the 99th Street entrance and exit to the project, if that's the appropriate motion.
Commissioner Philbrook, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. I'd entertain roll call.
Roll call. Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters. Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. We now move to our planning and zoning non-consent agenda. Item A1, change of zone 3243 and B1 MP-2020-8 will be heard together. They are change of zone number 3243, William Buck with BHC Roads for a change of zone from R1 single family, C1 limited business, and CP1 planned limited business districts to R4 Garden Apartment District for a multifamily development, Tower View Apartments at 5115 and 5125 Gibbs Road. The Planning Commission recommended approval to RP4 Planned Garden Apartment District by a vote of 5-4, and Master Plan Amendment MP 2020-8, William Buck with BHC Roads for a master plan amendment from community commercial and low density residential to medium density residential at 5115 and 5125 Gibbs Road. The Planning Commission recommended approval by a vote of 5-4. I'd ask staff to make some opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is Gunnar Hen, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Again, this project will be heard, or these two cases will be heard simultaneously. They will need to vote, an independent vote for each action. This is for a 40-unit apartment complex, again, on 5115, 5125 Gibbs Road. It's also a conversion of an existing single-family home along Gibbs Road into the office for the complex. There are two amenities that are required of a development of this size. If and when it moves to final development plan, we were going to work through what those amenities specifically are and where they are with the applicant. Part of our conditions of approval included the amendment of a sidewalk along Gibbs Road, as well as providing evidence that they have been working with the land bank. And let me just get to the site here. This is the existing single-family home that will be converted as the office. You can see the project here. As currently purported, part of life safety requirements for a project like this is to have 2 entrances and exits for essentially fire trucks and emergency services. They're in negotiations with the land bank to acquire rights of this property to provide their to get that second access off South 51st Street. In between the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners, the applicant sent us some additional materials to clarify some of the look and feel of the development, which were part of the comments that were obtained during the Planning Commission hearing. And for this property, there have been no notices of violation. There were limited support, but predominantly opposition to this project at Planning Commission, and what we've received since that time. Staff recommends approval of both.
Thank you. I'd ask the applicant to present his application. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mayor. This is Michael Macris with BHC Roads, and along with Conrad Miller, who is the attorney and landowner. I do have a brief slide deck to share if I can go ahead and share my screen at this time. Go ahead and start with the IT check. Can my screen be seen? All right, I got a thumbs up from Gunnar, so I will go ahead and get started. Again, Michael Macris with BHC Roads. Location is 7101 College Boulevard, Suite 400, Overland Park, Kansas 66210 for my place of business address. And I'll go ahead and get started to give an overview of some of the design, engineering, and land use to complement the staff report. So starting with the existing site, as Gunnar had described, there are 3 properties that kind of tie together to make our development. The first and the largest property being the C1 commercial site. That was the location of a former bowling alley that burned down in the mid-2000s, and the neighboring R1 residential property, along with a small piece of land bank property to make that secondary access work. A quick zoning overview. East of our project site and along Gibbs Road, there are a number of commercial uses, and our existing, one of our existing parcels is a C1 limited business district site. We're looking to downzone that parcel and combine it with the R1 to create our R4 district that would allow us to create a low density multifamily development, which would consist of 5 multifamily structures, each with 8 units to give us 40 multifamily units, and then the 1 single family home that will be retained on the project site, with that access to South 51st Street and Gibbs Road. Going ahead and doing a kind of a quick overview of the architectural feel of the new structures. Gunnar had already shared these are our front elevations and rear elevations. We'll have a combination of brick and colored siding for the project. Just showing some side elevations quickly as well. Quick overview of the site design. We are, as I mentioned, we'll have 2 locations of access on South 51st Street and Gibbs Road. And then we will have our 5 8-unit multifamily structures. The residential property will be retained to use as a office space and live-in residence for the property manager. And then we'll have an small accessory structure that will be matched to the architecture of the buildings to allow for some additional storage space that can be rented out by residents. On the amenity side, we will plan for a small playground area in the center of the property and a dog walk at the southwest of the property near the detention pond. We'll continue to work these items out with staff as we get further along into the planning process. Now, Gunnar did mention the request to have a sidewalk along Gibbs Road. We are agreeable to that and have it shown and have updated the plan since the Planning Commission. I want to touch on some of the landscape screening of the project to have an enhanced buffer between the neighboring properties. We are planning to have a substantial amount of plantings that will be above code requirements to give us that landscape buffer between our development and our neighboring properties. And now speaking to some of the engineering items of our proposed case. First, on traffic, the project is at the location of a previous bowling alley. It's about 15,000 square feet using the Institute of Transportation Engineers traffic data. In the PM peak hour, that project would, would create roughly 17 peak hour trips. And we don't have too much data available on bowling alleys as they've kind of been phased out over the past couple decades. But on a proposed multifamily, we'd have a slight PM peak hour trip to 22 total trips and 293 trips per day. BHC Roads has been working with Mr. Miller, considering a number of development schemes for this project. And as we mentioned, we're looking to take that C1 limited district parcel and downzone it to the R4 for this multifamily development and remove certain opportunities that exist today for development for potentially higher generating traffic uses. Something like an 8,000 square foot restaurant could generate 78 PM peak hour trips or 897 trips per day, or a 10,000 square foot variety store, something in the nature of a Dollar General, could create 68 PM peak hour trips or 65 trips per day. That's a uses typically allowed in a C1 district. We're looking to change that zoning so we'd eliminate higher traffic generating uses and take it down to a multifamily use. Another comment I wanted to mention, at the Planning Commission meeting, we had a number of residents speak to folks speeding around the curb or the curve on Gibbs Road. With our development in proximity to that curve, we don't see our trips entering and exiting the site adding to that problem, as folks entering the site would be slowing down as they make the turn into the site or accelerating as they leave and not speeding through that curve. That was just an item that was of multiple folks brought up at our Planning Commission. The next engineering item I wanted to speak to is stormwater management. In our existing condition, the C1 site has a heavy amount of impervious area, but was constructed without detention. And as such, water and stormwater is sheet flowing to the west and southern neighboring properties. With our proposal, we are looking to, or will add detention in conformance with present UG requirements. That detention, once water is retained in it, it will be piped to the city's public storm sewer system. That's going to result in an roughly 87% reduction in that direct discharge to neighboring properties and help alleviate some of that problem that exists today. And with that, I want to hand it over to Mr. Miller, who will speak to some of the ownership and management facts of our project. Conrad, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I just wanted to tell the commission that we did have a meeting back in November with the neighbors. We had a couple of people that came to that. We listened to their concerns, took those concerns into account, and that's why we've upgraded the landscaping and and made sure that the stormwater detention was directed away to the other neighbors, to eliminate that from our neighbor directly to the west. We also had several other along with the traffic, and we had some privacy issues. Again, that was why we are planning to do the privacy fencing around to protect the neighbors from any intrusion from anybody coming on to their property from our property. Specifically with the ownership and management, everyone who's been involved with this is in the Kansas City area. There is no outside ownership. While they have Conrad Miller as the owner on this, I think Mike put that on there to make me feel good or feel important. But there are a couple people that are involved in this. I'm involved, but not in a majority. But we looked around. This place burned down in 2007. And we looked around for years to find something to put there other than a vacant lot or some like a car dealership or parking or a bar or Dollar General, something that would fit into and buffer the neighborhood. And that's why we've come up with this. And again, we've looked for years and years and, maintained the property and paid the taxes. For 13 years. And I think that Mr. Chucky, who is the main person involved in this, is a good manager. He has other rental properties, so he's got experience. There was some concern about crime being generated from the project. And I think that most people will let you know that the way to prevent crime and in an apartment complex is to have strict screening of your tenants to make sure that they're financially responsible and that they don't have poor rental histories. The worst thing that can happen is when you start just putting people into the project because they've got cash in their hand. So that's one of the things that we took in consideration. We left the house there because we wanted to have an on-site manager who lives at the property on a 24/7 basis so that anybody who has a problem with any one of the tenants knows where they can go, that someone will be there. They live there. They're going to be part of the neighborhood. That's not many. I don't think many 40-unit apartment complexes actually do that. But we thought it was important to make sure that that the neighbors, felt safe and could have somebody to actually go talk to. They all have my cell phone number, so I'm available at any time. The other thing that we talked about was the rules, strictly enforced. Code of conduct. No, activity outside. No basketball games in the or any other kind of activities in areas that aren't assigned for that. Security cameras. We committed to putting the security cameras up to be monitored so that we know what's going on the premises and what's going on around the premises. And do the security fencing, again, to protect anything from any overflow of and to protect the privacy of our neighbors. And so, that's basically what my take is on it. And it's very personal to me because it's been my family for 60 years. So, we did the bowling center. We were there for years and would still be doing it. And even though Mike says they're disappearing, we would have been happy to keep that going, but it just couldn't work out. We think this is a nice development for the area. It's a down zoning from what we could put there. Again, we got the extra land to make it a larger, not less intense use. So the down zoning, the screening of the and buffering, it's a classic buffer zone from commercial uses that are all around there to residential uses. I mean, that's one of those things that you go to school and that's what you see. Oh, here's a buffer zone. This is what you put there. So we think it's a nice development. And we would just ask that you give us an approval of that. Let us work with staff and make sure that it's as good as it can be. That's what our goal is. So I would, if there are any questions, I would take those after any kind of public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Gunnar, would you please explain where we are on the protest petition?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. There is a valid protest petition, so it will require 9 votes to approve.
Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. First, I'll ask, I know there are folks in attendance. We will begin to recognize those and give you an opportunity to speak. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this proposal? Do we have anybody present who would like to speak in favor? Any hands raised?
Tell them no hands.
I see no hands raised.
Have we received any comments in writing from the public in favor?
The clerk's office has not received any in favor, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, I know we have people in opposition. We will begin to recognize those folks. Who is handling that? The clerk or Bridget or Carol?
We will be handling this is the clerk. We will be handling the transition of the people who want to speak in opposition, and there will be one email that is needed to be read as well. There's a total of 8 counting, 7 that want to actually speak and 1 read.
All right, would you please give directions to those who'd like to speak?
Carol?
Yeah, as your name is called, we request that you state your name and city of, and your address for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to state your comments. Should you go to the 2-minute mark, the clerk will tell you you have 1 minute remaining to summarize your comments. And then at the 3-minute mark, the clerk will tell you that your time is up. So at this time, the clerk will read the first person to speak.
Mary Jean Grindell.
Okay, yes, thank you for letting me speak tonight. First of all, I am the president of the Turner Community Connection, and I'd like to first of all thank Conrad Miller for the letter that he sent to my husband and I on Monday. That letter, along with his presentation this evening, was very helpful. I would still have to say that I am opposed to the whole apartment idea. And specifically, I'm still wanting to know, after our December 14th meeting, how many people will be allowed in the 1-bedroom unit and the 2-bedroom unit. You know, we need occupancy limits there so that we don't have 8 people crammed into a 1-bedroom apartment. I was very pleased to hear about the rigorous screening that's going to be done, and also the code of conduct, the rules. And I'm hoping that those rules will be gone over in person and not just, given to the person on a piece of paper, so that the tenant would understand completely. I'm still wondering if there would be any chances given. So for example, if a person's not able to make their rent for 1 month, are they given a second chance? How's that going to work? And then also, as far as both paying their rent and breaking a rule, are there going to be second chances, or how would that be handled? So that, I still have that in the back of my mind. Still wondering about maintenance and inspections on the complex also. I know at our last meeting, December 14th,
You have 1
everyone
minute
there
remaining.
spoke in opposition to it, but yet the vote passed. So we didn't understand that either. I yield the rest of my time, and there are 2 other people here at this residence. Just one other person. My husband will not speak, but Rusty Quick does want to speak also. Thank you.
Yes, Mary Jane, you don't have to yield your time. Each person will have 3 minutes. So,
Okay, I'm done. Thank you.
The second person to speak, Mayor, is Dennis Grindell.
He is saying he will not speak. His questions were answered tonight.
Thank you. The next person is Rusty Quick.
Okay, Rusty.
Hi, my name is Rusty Quick. I live at 2437 South 53rd Lane, about 3 doors down from this project. I have some major concerns with this project. One of them is traffic. One of the main things in traffic, I know they were talking about this and all the increase in the cars, but what they have not come up to saying is where this project is going to be at is a keystone cop of intersections. There are like 8 entrances and exits within a 200-foot parameter of this property. Okay, you've got Key Lane that's in there. You got Gibbs going north and south. You got 51st Street, which does not line up at all. You've got 3 businesses that got entrances and exits that go in and out of this. And you also got the fire department that goes in and out of all this. And you're going to put another 80 cars into this keystone cop of intersections. And then in this keystone cop of intersections, you want to put a sidewalk, okay, but the sidewalk for this property, for this area is on the opposite side of the street. So anybody coming out of this complex is going to have to go through all this mess of intersections to get to the other side of the street where the sidewalks are. They're going to put a sidewalk in front. I see that on their plans, but that's a sidewalk to nowhere, okay, because the sidewalks of the city are on the opposite side of the streets. And how are people, children especially, going to get, like Mike Kane said on the last one up there on Leavenworth Road, to the other side safely without getting ran over? Because there's no place in this 200-foot where that complex is at to get a crosswalk to get to the other side of that street, okay? Another thing that I have a development was on the piece of property that they were talking about getting from the land bank.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay, that piece of property from the land bank, when I was doing the petition for that, I noticed that that property is also on the same parcel as the fire department, this fire station. If you give that piece of parcel away to them to use, what is the future plan for the firehouse, even though it is scheduled to be closed? When does that get closed? You know, what happens to that building afterwards, or what does the city use that building for later? It really limits the use of the city's accessibility to that building for anything, if you want to put a street department complex in there or anything else, because there's no parking there for anybody, any employees, or there's no driveway other than the garage door that goes in there for the fire truck right now. You would lose all that accessibility in a future, whatever the city would want to use that piece of property for. The other thing was the drainage on the property. I noticed on the grading,
Time
they
is up,
grade
sir.
everything.
Thank you.
Time's up, okay. Thank you for your time.
I'd like to move that we grant an additional minute to Mr. Quick.
Thank you. I was also noticing on the grading, they were grading all of the property back towards this retention pond. Okay, you know, you get a big flash flood type thing, you know, storm sewers on the street clog up. That retention pond is like 50 feet from people's houses that are behind them. If that would overflow, you're flooding people's houses back there, which is not a good thing. Why can't they put storm sewers in the parking lots and grade that to run to the storm sewer instead of grading everything to one spot. Okay. And then what do you do with it? All that, right now we're in winter. Where do you push the snow to? You're going to push it out on Gibbs Road, on across the street on the sidewalk. You're going to push the snow. They've got very limited green space to do that. A 4 or 5 inch snow creates you got a lot of parking lot there that you're pushing that. Where's that going to go? Where are you going to push it to? You got no, if you put it in the parking spots, now you don't have parking for your attendants. Where are they going to park at? So these are my major concerns on this project. I think they need to be.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Just to be clear, I failed to ask for a roll call on the extension in time, but we got it done. Are there other speakers?
Yes, the next speaker is Chandra Ward.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Chandra Ward, and I live at 5124 Lakewood Street, Kansas City, Kansas 66106. That's here in Turner. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Turner Community Connection. We are the MBR for the Turner area, and we are opposed to this development for the following reasons. We are opposed to the 40-unit apartment complex because it does not create long-term residency in Turner. We are concerned about property values for the neighboring homes, that they will decrease with having an apartment complex right next to them. We are also concerned about safety. As it's been mentioned, the increase in traffic for both foot and vehicles. Gibbs Street is kind of it's a blind street. It curves. So not so much the folks going in and out, but as people are coming around Gibbs, it's an accident waiting to happen. There are oftentimes the police will sit down at the church parking lots. It's a speed trap. And like it was already mentioned, the numerous intersections that are over there, it is a safety concern that we see. And during the planning and zoning meeting that was back in December, it was mentioned that repeatedly, and it's been mentioned tonight, that this apartment complex would serve as a buffer for Turner. Nobody's asking for a buffer in Turner. What we want is long-term residency and houses for Turner. And it was also mentioned at that meeting in December, we had brought up the idea of single-family houses being built there as opposed to the 40-unit apartment complex. And the answer that we were given was that homes don't sell in Turner for more than $250,000.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Okay. I'm also a licensed realtor, so I can tell you, as of yesterday in the MLS, there was only 8 homes for sale in Turner. And of those, only 1 was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. And in the last 180 days, 10 homes in Turner sold for over $250,000. TCC is opposed to this development, but would fully support the development of housing for long-term residency in Turner. Thank you.
The next person is Sherry Johnson.
Good evening. I'm Sherry Johnson. My address is 2531 South 53rd Street, and I oppose this project. Many reasons. I know Mr. Conrad said that he sent a letter out to meetings to notify the neighbors. I know that I have lived here since 1986, and I did not receive a letter in November to tell us about this project. And then also to go into some of the other things, speeding. Speeding is a huge, huge issue on South 53rd Street, where it turns into Gibbs as well. And people run the stoplight or stop sign at Oak Grove Road. I've called the police. They've sat and done speed traps. And so my thing is, I know that the developer and Mr. Conrad did a traffic study. I read that traffic study, but it just said that it was going to have, I think, increased traffic. I would suggest that I actually called the county engineer today to see if we could do some type of tube collecting of information to see what kind of car, what type of, or what the volume of vehicles through here. They said that they couldn't probably do a speed limit sign, but that would be also helpful if they could do something like that, just to be able to see the data about how many vehicles are actually going in and up and down 53rd Street, and also what the speed limit is. I know those systems can collect the data. That would be very interesting. Now, when I talked to the county engineer, I talked to Devin Tapo, and he said it was too cold to do the tubing collection now, but he would have to wait till the spring.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you. And that it would be 14 days, and they do it from 47th Street to 55th Street, down County Line or down Oak Grove Road, to get a good view at what the traffic level is. And then also home values. I've lived here since 1986, and the home values, it's going to go down. I mean, I don't care what you say, that's what's going to happen. So I think that's all I have, but I hope I covered everything. So thank you for letting me talk.
The next person is Alex Craddock. Alex Craddock. Carol, do you see an Alex Craddock in our queue?
Alex, you're unmuted if you want to speak. Ask to unmute. Mr. Craddock, if you want to unmute, you can go ahead and
There
get
it
your
is.
3 minutes.
I got it. I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I'm Alex Craddock. I live at 3009 South 53rd Street. I'm the secretary of the South Turner Neighborhood Association. I'm a member of the Turner Community Connection Board, and I'm a retired Turner teacher. I attended the previous Zoom meeting in December, but I was not made aware of a meeting in November. None of our South Turner neighborhood officers were.
Nor was TCC.
Nor was the Turner Community Connection. The property on Gibbs Road is part of our neighborhood boundary area, is in this area. Our South Turner Neighborhood Association was established in 1996 with the Livable Neighborhoods Task Force. We have always encouraged home ownership over rental ownership. We have found in most cases, ownership of one's property tends to lead to better care of the property. It is unfortunate that this proposal is not for single-family homeowner dwellings. We also look at quality of life for our neighborhood over individual profit. We do not see a 440 apartment complex improving our quality of life in our neighborhood. For these reasons, we of the South Turner Neighborhood Association and the Turner Community Connection strongly ask that the Board of Commissioners deny the request for the development of these apartments. Also, I have a request from our Senator Pat Petty. I don't know if she's contacted you, but she wanted to speak.
You have 1 minute.
She's in her car. On her phone.
Our Commissioner Pat Petty, our Senator Pat Petty would like to also speak.
She's on her phone.
She's
in
on
her
her phone in her car at this time,
So
or
she has to
whatever,
be
if she could be recognized. And that's all. I just would ask that you take these things into consideration when
Do
you,
we know the last four digits of her number she's dialing in on so we can recognize her?
Mr. Clerk, this Commissioner Ramirez hit the last four, 3741.
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Mhm. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
We're actually going to rename Senator Petty's personal number so it doesn't show up.
Oh, it didn't?
What do they
No,
want it to
no,
keep?
no, no, they don't want to
I
get
can't hear.
it. No, they'll just reassign, so it don't show up, so nobody can get it,
Oh,
Oh, I see. Okay.
so nobody can get it.
yeah.
Mhm.
Clerk, is there anyone else before we call on Senator Petty?
Mayor, the only thing left would be the email from Karen Shibby.
Let's go ahead and read that, and then we can come back to Senator Petty.
Should we?
Okay, I will read that exactly as it's written. I am opposed to the current plan for 40 apartments at this location unless they are senior living. The other option is single-family residential. The reasons are that I drive this area almost daily, coming from my home on 54th to my daughter on Key Lane and on down into Turner for many other reasons. I've driven this at all hours, and there is always traffic, no sidewalks, and there is an assumption based on the rent required to live there that we will have cars and no need of buses, which are not available. If I take my family into consideration, my daughter, husband, and two teenage sons have 4 cars. That would be just one apartment. There simply is an infrastructure there. In my opinion, to support apartments, I would go as far as saying it would be irresponsible to allow this. I'm sincerely concerned for accidents or someone walking, getting hit. We know the accidents and deaths at Shawnee Drive, and that's the 2 lanes with sidewalks and stoplights. In addition, everyone downhill, for example, Key Lane will have more water runoff, more concrete, more water. They're all on septic, with basically ditches that handle the runoff. These ditches have filled and come up close to homes before. In addition, more traffic on that road may lead to even more accidents there. My daughter has twice had cars go off in her yard, and thankfully the gas meter was moved closer to her home because one almost hit it. Finally, considering all of the development going off of Douglas and 55th tells us there is interest in new single-family homes in this area. I know people are very disappointed in the lack of community communication from Mr. Buck, who lives in Overland Park, but said he lived in Turner for, I think he mentioned, several years. He said he sent letters, but no one around the area received any. I think someone who lived in Turner would know who are a close-knit community. I personally would love to see Mr. Buck treating the community with respect and be open-minded and considerate of our concerns. Thank you, and sincerely, Karen Shivy.
All right, is Senator Petty available at this point?
Senator Petty. Mayor, I think they're still trying to get her
She's unmuted now.
unmuted there.
Open. Senator Petty, you're allowed to speak.
Carol, have we moved her over appropriately and she's muted?
Allowed to speak at this moment.
Senator Petty, can you hear us? Mary, I'm not sure why Senator Petty's not responding.
Okay, well, I'm going to ask the petitioner if he has any closing comments. Well, if we have no other remarks to add, we'll close the public hearing. Does the petitioner like to make any closing comments?
I would, Mr. Mayor, there are several questions that were brought up. I think the big issue is why aren't we putting single family homes there? I think a lot of people say that's what it should be. Unfortunately, this area, there's less than the commercial portion is less than 2 acres. And with the commercial property around it, trying to put single family with the amount of infrastructure that has to be put in, you'd have to put in really small little houses and, or duplexes, which would probably turn out to be rentals, which would be just exacerbate the situation anyway. So, we've looked at single family, we've looked at townhomes, we've looked at the senior living, we've looked at a lot of these options, but the infrastructure, the amount that it's going to take, it just can't support a single, 2 single family. And my comment in December was that if we sold single family houses, we'd have to charge $250,000 for the lot. That's before you put up a house. So that's just, it's a very intense usage to get that infrastructure in. As far as the occupancy, we would be community standard. I think that's probably 2 people per room. So there's not going to be, 8 people or, 20 people in a room. Maintenance and upkeep. That's always the issue, and it's something that has to be done, and it's something that has to be done by the manager, and that's why the manager is on site and is living there. So those are a couple of the issues we've had. The buffer zone really utilizing people and moving people into the area, into apartments, into nice apartments in the area, will enhance your single family housing, because when they graduate or where are they going to locate? They're going to locate where they were. So that's going to enhance the single family properties in the area and the sale of those. And so I disagree that it's going to be it's going to hurt the value. I'm not only a lawyer, but I'm a real estate broker, so understand a lot about that, and the transition from, everybody's not moving in a $250,000 house. People start their families in apartments and then move to houses. And they start in that area. So we think it's, the use is a less intense use that can be, and something's going to develop there. It's land develops. Something's will go there, and we think this is the least intrusive use that's going to be made in the neighborhood, and it gets a vacant lot back into being a productive part of the community. So that's all I'd have. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions too.
Mayor, we have Senator Petty on the phone.
Well, I've closed the public hearing. I entertain a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Commissioner Kane, motion to open the public hearing.
Second, Philbrook.
Roll call.
Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Okay, she's prepared.
Hello?
We can hear.
You go ahead, Senator. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for this opportunity. I'm sorry that you had to reopen the public hearing. I hope you can hear me. I actually I've been listening to the hearing the whole time, and then star 6 wouldn't let me in. But so my name is Pat Petty. I live at 5316 Lakewood Street, and in Kansas City, Kansas. And although I want to commend Conrad Miller for the information that he's provided, I would say that there's a number of issues that do not work in favor of this project. One is it was referred to as low density. I think that all of us that live in the area would consider this the high density for that area concerning the housing that's already close at hand. When you add 40 apartment units, which, as was mentioned earlier, which is on average would be 2 cars per unit. So we're now only talking about 80 cars that would then be there. Second thing is that is a blind curve. And as Rusty Quick, who lives close by, mentioned, it has multiple access into that one point, which make it pretty unwielding for anyone, and then you add this higher density of use. And the third thing I would mention is that I was disappointed to learn that the petitioner did not use the process that I understood was in place for contacting not only the neighbors, but the neighborhood groups that are in the area. TCC, Turner Community Connection, is not a new NBR. It's been in place for a very long time, so there's no reason why that information would not be available, as well as the South
You have
Turner
1 minute remaining.
neighborhood group. So I would hope that in the future that any petitioner for any property has to have meetings with the neighborhood groups. And lastly, there are 19 new homes that are going to be going up right by me that are in the process of being built right off of Douglas and 55th, as we referred to. And so there is a demand for quality single-family homes in Turner. So I see that as a much higher use for this property. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I will now close the public hearing. Do any members of the commission have questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, there are a couple things.
Yes, thank you.
This is
Commissioner Mark?
Grant for Planning and Urban Design. There are a
I'm
couple
sorry?
questions. I'm sorry.
What was your comment, Gunnar?
I was just going to say there's a couple of questions that I thought I could potentially help answer as well.
Go ahead.
Again, some of these are squarely in the field of the applicant, but I just wanted to say a couple things related to the sidewalks on Gibbs Road. I think staff's thought in terms of adding that sidewalk was this happens all over the UG. We sort of implement an incremental sidewalk expansion program. We did recognize that all of those sidewalks are on the north side of Gibbs Road. We thought that we could begin an incremental sidewalk network for this little commercial node off Gibbs Road, starting with the multifamily, and then over time, whatever that might be, kind of moving down the road a little bit. As it relates to some of the comments about permanent residency in Turner, it was noted at the Planning Commission, and it's been noted on several other projects, some studies that have occurred that say that people who buy a property outside of, usually buy it within a mile of where they previously rented a property. So I think part of the comment that was conversation that was had by the Planning Commission was that this would in fact encourage and become a stepping stone for permanent residency within the neighborhood of Turner. I'm not exactly sure what happened with the meeting notice for the neighborhood meeting. The applicant is required to notify all of the properties on the noticing list, which is everything within 200 feet, as well as the neighborhood groups. I'm not exactly sure why that didn't go to everybody. We do have proof that they sent out a notice, and we also have obviously the minutes from that meeting. I will note that the meeting only had 2 people in attendance. So that must have been an issue. I can't speak to that, but they are required to do that notice if they wanted to reach out on that and confirm that they did send out all noticing requirements. And then the other note that I would make is in our conversations with planning engineering and the county engineer, again, the review of the traffic impact study and the project itself did not encumber any roadway expansion or improvements as it relates to this project. Although I will say some of the things that have been noted today, if the commission recommends approval and this does then move into final development plan, it sounds like there's a couple of things that we could address in terms of public improvements, whether they be additional signage and or a crosswalk on Gibbs, and then potentially redirecting some of the traffic within the site as well. So I think that there's still room for improvement. The other thing I just wanted to note, similar to the previous case that we heard, if for whatever reason the Board of Commissioners feels like this needs to be sent back down to the Planning Commission, I will make the note that within the zoning code for master plan amendment projects, the planning director can require additional neighborhood meetings. And so we could potentially send this back for redesign if you all felt that was a potential path forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or.
Thank you. Commissioner Markley?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a comment and then I have sort of a process question. So comment-wise, I do want to make one clarification, and it comes out of some emails that came to me that I think resulted from some of the dialogue around single-family housing. So I got a few emails that asked me to vote on single-family housing tonight. So I just want to make clear for those who might be watching sort of what the process is. So the options on the table tonight are apartment zoning or staying with current zoning, which is commercial. And the applicant did reference that a little bit in his presentation, but I just want to make that clear because I don't want to have the disappointment on the back end of, well, why didn't you vote for single family housing? It's just not how planning works. We can tell people what they can't do on a piece of land. We can't force them to do what we'd like to do. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to have single family housing there, but that's just not something this board has the power to do. So the option on the table tonight is to change the zoning from commercial to apartment zoning, or to leave the zoning as is, which would be commercial. So just sort of my comment and clarification. And then, and I don't know if this is for Gunner or for legal, ordinarily in these planning situations, we make a motion to approve or deny the planning commission's action. Does that change because of this protest petition, or would we still set out the motion in those same terms?
Commissioner, I would say, I'm sorry, it took a moment to unmute again. This is Misty Brown, Acting Chief Counsel for the Legal Department. I would say you would still make the motion to either approve or deny, just understanding that to approve it would take 9 and to deny it would take 8.
Okay, thank you, Misty. All right, I will yield to any other comments, and if there are none, I'm prepared to make a motion.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read all the emails that all of the commissioners had received. I've read all the documents, and this particular project reminds me of a project that came through my district just a couple months ago, where the developer was very adamant on wanting to build a certain type, but went against what the community wanted. And my stance then is my stance now. Any project that the community doesn't want or doesn't believe fits there, we need to go back and look at it. And the project was in the Mission Cliffs area. It didn't fit the context or the character of that neighborhood. And from what I've heard, and I'm gonna go with the people who have lived in Turner for many years, who believe that that this project doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood. So I personally am going to not support this project. Thank you.
Commissioner Burrows?
Thank you, Mayor.
I too have some concerns. Mayor, I lived in that neighborhood for 15 years and raised my family in that area and have gotten to know a lot of the neighbors all the way through that the Highland Crest area as well as the Turner area, Oak Grove Park there. And I do remember going to Tower Lanes and remembering the vibrancy of that area at the time. But what we see now is a need, and I appreciate Commissioner Markley bringing forward how we're supposed to vote on this evening, because I think it's extremely important. That corner there needs so much more than just the apartments. People that have lived along that corridor have dealt with a number of accidents, number of challenges, and how the road has once been reconstructed to hopefully eliminate some of the accidents. What it did was increase the speed around the corner. There is a tremendous amount of east and west driveways as well as roads that feed into 53rd Street. And there's a major school right around the corner from this proposed project, right at the crest of the curve. And so, Mayor, the other aspect that I would bring in to comment is the stormwater detention area. I can't disagree with the comment made by the resident. We so sorely need to address our stormwater detention ponds. They become overgrown, they become a trash pit, and we no longer need to continue to put those in residential areas. They need to be hooked to a sewer so that we can at least address proper development. I'm going to stand with the residents on this, and I appreciate the comments of my fellow commissioners, and I'll relinquish my time to Commissioner Markley to make her motion.
Assuming there are no other comments or hands raised, I didn't look at the list, Mayor. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I would make a motion to deny this application, which would be to go in opposition to what was recommended by the Planning Commission. So Misty, can you tell us? If I say aye, what am I saying aye for?
I think
it's confusing.
I think what has to happen here is the motion comes forward, two motions come forward, I guess, and it will require 9 votes to move it forward. Is that correct, Misty?
So there, I'm hearing a motion in basically to deny the approval from the Planning Commission. So that would take 8 votes to move it forward. And if you were voting to deny it, your vote would be aye in support of your motion of denial. And then it would require a separate vote on the master plan amendment.
But to be clear, if we simply voted on the motion that came, the recommendation from the planning and zoning, it would require 9 votes to be approved, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, Mayor. Yes, if you were voting to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation, it would take 9 votes.
Thank you. So I guess what I'm saying is, Commissioner Markley, if we simply voted to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission, it will require 9 votes to be approved.
Correct. Would it be?
She voted to deny the planning and zoning.
But if you think it would be clearer to vote to approve and then have it not, I'm not sure.
Mayor, this is Doug Bach, County Administrator, if I may.
Yeah.
I believe she did make the proper motion in this regard. You can, if you were to just vote, and I think the confusion comes, if you were just to vote to approve and that failed, then there would still require action. So in this case, she has made a motion to deny the applicant to go forward. That is the motion on the floor. That is the appropriate one, and you can vote aye to approve it if you agree to deny the application, or no if you don't agree to deny it.
Commissioner Mike Kane, second.
Thank you for that clarification. We have a motion and a second to deny the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And to be clear, Mayor, that motion is with regard to the change of zone, because then we'll need a second motion for the master plan amendment.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Kane,
Aye.
Markley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
That is 9-0. That motion carries.
Mayor, I would make the same motion, a motion to deny the approval sent forward by the Planning Commission to overturn the Planning Commission with regard to the master plan amendment.
Ramirez, second.
I think we have
Roll
a motion.
call. Kane,
Aye.
Barkley,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries. My apologies, Mayor. I didn't give you a chance to do roll call.
That's all right, thank you. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We'll now move to the regular portion of our agenda. Does any member of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the regular consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Ramirez, second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Kane,
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the portion of our regular meeting. We are adjourned in that capacity. I now call us back to order as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. Does any member of the commission or county administrator wish to set aside any item on the Land Bank consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
McKiernan, move to approve all as submitted.
Ramirez, second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Kane,
Aye.
Barkley.
Aye.
Walters. Walters.
Aye.
Philbrook,
Aye.
Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes our meeting for the evening. Thank you for your attendance. We are adjourned.